A step parenting expert, Chris Burns.
Women's mindset coach and stepmom, Chris Burns.
Welcome to the Step Parent Podcast. Welcome back to the Step Parent Podcast. If you're new here, thank you for being here. Make sure that you hit follow so you don't miss any episodes. This podcast is for the conversations blended families are living but rarely naming out loud. And today's episode is for our men. And it's also for the women partnered with men who are carrying more than what they're saying. So let's dive in. I want to start by saying something really, really clearly, that men in blended families are often carrying financial responsibility long before emotional safety, clarity of the role, or authority has been established. And that order really does matter. This episode isn't about money in isolation. It is about what money represents in a blended family system. Pressure, responsibility, identity, worth, power, belonging. For many men, stepping into a blended family doesn't come with a clear conversation about finances. There's rarely a sit down where expectations are openly discussed. It's usually gradual, subtle, and assumed. And it starts with a man helping out, a stepdad helping out, covering a bill, paying for the groceries, stepping in because it just makes sense. He earns more or he works more. Then over time, the financial load increases. A bigger house because there's more children, higher grocery bills, school fees, sport, medical costs, holidays that suddenly double. Then as the kids get older, there might be cars, there might be learner's permits, all the things, living expenses that are just not adding up, but they are multiplying. And here's the thing that I feel like needs to be named. Men aren't just paying money, they're paying with their nervous system load. Because money is rarely just money. It's security, stability, fear of loss, fear of failure, fear of not being enough. And yet most men don't feel safe to talk about that pressure because men are conditioned to believe that provision is expected. That if they talk about money, they're being too transactional. That if they express their overwhelm, they're failing. So what do men do? They suppress it. They cope and push through quietly. And here's where the first fracture of the relationship starts to happen. Men in blended families often feel like they're paying without recognition, not because their partner is intentionally ungrateful, not because the children are ungrateful or unappreciative, but because the system doesn't acknowledge male provision unless it's missing. When men provide consistently, it becomes almost invisible, and invisibility erodes the motivation. So this is where I want the partners listening to hear this really clearly. Recognition isn't about praise. It's about acknowledgement. It's about hearing, I see what you're carrying. It's about knowing your contribution to the family system matters beyond the bank account. Let's talk about the part that creates resentment faster than anything else does. And that piece here is men providing without authority. Many men in blended families are financially responsible for the lives they don't actually get to lead in. They contribute to decisions they're not making. They fund the systems they're not designing, and they support parenting dynamics they may not be entirely agreeing with. And when they speak up, they're reminded, sometimes gently, sometimes sharply, that they're not the biological parent. And that reminder lands so freaking deeply because it doesn't just remove the authority, it removes the sense of belonging. Responsibility without authority doesn't feel like a partnership. It feels like being useful, but you're not valued. And men don't become resentful because they're controlling. They become resentful in a blended family dynamic because they're over-responsible and under-recognized. Here's something really, really important I want you to take from this episode. Authority doesn't mean dominance, and it's not meaning control. That's not the piece that I'm speaking to. It means having a voice that's valued and that matters. When a man is financially responsible but emotionally sidelined, his system goes into conflict. And unresolved internal conflict always leaks. It leaks into withdrawal, it leaks into irritability, it can leak into shutdown, leaks into disengagement. Then you'll hear the wife or the partner saying, oh, he's distant, he's emotionally unavailable. You'll hear your friend telling you he's checked out. But what happened first was the powerlessness. A layer in the cultural expectation that men should just handle it. Men are expected to be the rock, to be stable, to absorb the pressure, and to not bring emotionally complex needs to the relationship or into the room. But pressure that isn't acknowledged doesn't disappear. It just finds another way out. We are interrupting this episode for a quick ad break or a cheeky plug because we can. If you're navigating step parenting and you feel emotionally overwhelmed, resentful, reactive, or like you're constantly holding it together, I want to tell you about the Step Parent Standard. This course is for step parents who are done surviving and are ready to lead themselves with emotional intelligence, boundaries, and clarity. It's a decade of lived experience and professional training compounded into one space. No fluff, no blame, just tools that work. You get lifetime access for $299. This is where resentment turns into leadership. Let's get back to today's episode. So let's talk about something that men are rarely admitting. Many men feel financial guilt in blended families, guilt for not being able to do more. Maybe they feel guilt for feeling resentful. They have guilt for wanting the recognition, guilt for wanting the boundaries and not knowing how to communicate boundaries because they're not doing the work. They're not in the journey. They don't even know what a boundary means. And that guilt is keeping men silent. And silence slowly kills intimacy because when men don't feel safe to speak about money, money becomes a loaded topic. It becomes emotional, defensive, triggering. And this is why financial conversations in blended families are rarely just about the budgets. They're about power, fairness, and worth. Now, I want to speak for a moment to the men directly listening. Your value is not your wallet. Your worth is not measured by what you pay for. And your silence is not strength. Strength is clarity. Strength is honesty. Strength is leadership. And leadership starts with naming what you carry without the blame. And to the partners listening, here's the reframe. Acknowledging financial contribution does not make your men weak. It honors them, it stabilizes them, it creates safety. Now, let's move into what a man can actually do with this awareness once they have it. So here's some practical strategies from this episode. And I feel like this is going to really offer some support long-term if anyone did tune in, or send it to someone that you feel like needs these strategies because it's going to give you the support that you're looking for. First of all, we want to name the pressure without the accusation. So this isn't about listing expenses. It's about expressing impact. I'm carrying a lot right now is not an attack. It's information. Second, I need you to start separating your money from worth. If your sense of belonging in the family rises and falls with your financial contribution, something needs recalibration. Thirdly, revisit authority conversations. If you're responsible, you need a voice. That conversation might be uncomfortable, but silence is costing you more in your relationship. Fourthly, ask for acknowledgement, not permission. Recognition isn't control, it's connection. Wanting appreciation doesn't make you transactional. You need to be setting internal boundaries. Just because you can pay doesn't mean that you should, and your choice does matter in this. And finally, stop outsourcing your emotional safety. If the only way you feel secure is by providing more, you are abandoning yourself. Lead yourself with truth, not resentment. Resentment is unspoken truth turned inward. If this episode resonated, please hit follow so that you do not miss future conversations. If you're listening on Spotify, leave a comment or a 5-star rating. This really helps this podcast reach the men and families who need it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you for doing the work that most people are avoiding. I will see you next week.